My name is Marcia Ellen Ritter. I am 70 years old. I live in a small two-bedroom bungalow on Long Meadow Street at the edge of a quiet town in upstate New York, a place where the grass grows uneven but green, and the trees have begun to lose their patience, dropping leaves even before the first frost. My house is the color of faded blue hydrangeas, with a porch swing that creaks no matter how recently I've oiled it. My husband, Paul, died 5 years ago this past spring. He had cancer that settled in quietly and then didn't leave. For 38 years, we were partners in everything, working at the post office, gardening, raising our son, Mark. After Paul passed, the house felt like a museum, full of his shadows. I learned with time to live with the silence. Mark is 42 now, married to Jessica, with two children, Anna, 8, and Timmy, just turned 4. They live 15 minutes away in a large house with new windows and the sort of kitchen countertops you see in magazines. Mark is busy, he tells me. Jessica is busier. Anna plays soccer. Timmy is at the age where every surface is a drum. In recent years, I have become the background to their lives, the reliable constant, the one who always says yes. I watch the children whenever they ask, whether it's a school night or a weekend, whether I have plans or not. I bake their birthday cakes, mend their costumes for Halloween, fix loose buttons, scrub floors, even buy groceries when there's a gap between paychecks. Jessica calls it pitching in. Mark says, "You know we couldn't do it without you, Mom." But I have plans too sometimes. Nothing extravagant. An afternoon movie with Edna from next door, a watercolor class at the community center, library book club where everyone is older than me, but we drink tea and argue about mysteries. I never say no to my family. I rearrange, cancel, or simply go without. The house grows quieter year after year. Most nights I eat dinner at my little kitchen table, set for one. I put on the radio for company, an old habit from when Paul was alive and hated silence. I knit blankets for charity. Nobody in my family seems to want them, but I make them anyway. My calendar on the fridge is full. Dentist appointments, doctor's checkups, pick up Anna from practice, babysit Friday, take Timmy to the park Saturday morning. My own name is nowhere on it. Sometimes I sit on the porch swing after the sun goes down, wrapped in a shawl I made for myself. I watch the lights come on in other houses. I wonder if anyone sees me here in this small life I've built, this life that's become quieter than I ever thought it could be. But I never complain. I never say no. I am the person who helps, who is always available, because I love them and because I believe, maybe foolishly, that someday they will see me not just as a fixture, not just as Mom, but as Marcia, as myself. It was a Friday in late October when it happened. The leaves outside had already surrendered to the coming cold, littering the sidewalk in gold and rust. I'd spent most of the morning fussing over what to wear. Edna and I had tickets for a 2 p.m. matinee at the old Rialto. We'd planned it for weeks, a rare treat, something new showing for once, a French film with English subtitles and no superheroes. I'd even bought a new scarf, pale lavender, soft as a whisper. It felt like reclaiming a small piece of myself. The morning was simple: a cup of instant coffee, a bowl of cereal, the comfort of a freshly ironed blouse. I ran a load of laundry, watered the dusty plant in Paul's old study, and spent too much time fretting over the lines around my eyes in the bathroom mirror. I wanted the day to feel different, to be more than an ordinary Friday. At noon, as I was packing my purse, mints, tissues, a paperback just in case Edna was late, my phone rang. The ringtone for family, "You Are My Sunshine," bright and tinny, filled the kitchen. Mark's name. I picked up, smiling. "Hi, honey?" He sounded rushed. "Hey, Mom, can you babysit Anna and Timmy tonight?" Jess picked up an extra shift at the hospital, and I have to cover someone at work. We're really in a bind. My first instinct, as always, was to say yes. I nearly did, but then I remembered the matinee, the tickets I'd been saving on the fridge for 3 weeks, the effort I'd made, Edna's smile when we planned our day. For the first time, I hesitated. I can't tonight, Mark. I have plans. I'm going to the movies with Edna. He cut me off, his tone sliding from hurried to impatient. You have plans? Mom, you're on your own anyway, so be nice and help. The kids need you. The words hung there, heavy, sharp. I heard Anna's voice in the background. Daddy, I want juice. And the clatter of something dropped on tile. Mark sighed. Please, Mom, just come by 6. We'll owe you. I felt the old reflex, the deep groove of habit. Don't make things difficult. Don't let them down. Don't say no. I swallowed the protest rising in my chest. Okay, Mark, I said, quieter than I meant. I'll be there. He was already distracted, thanking me, then telling Anna to get off the counter. The call ended before I could say goodbye. I sat at the table, the phone resting on the yellowed surface beside my new scarf. The house felt suddenly smaller, the walls pressing in. The tickets to the matinee looked up at me, silent witnesses. I could hear Etna's laughter in my mind, the promise of something light and different. I sent her a message. Sorry, can't make it today. Family needs me. Have a good time. Let me know how the movie is. She replied a few minutes later with a simple, Next time, take care of yourself, Marcia. I tried to believe it was possible. The afternoon passed in a blur of duty. I packed an overnight bag, just in case, grabbed some cookies I'd baked the night before, and left the house. The wind was cold on my face as I locked the door, but I barely noticed. Driving to Mark's, I kept replaying the words. You're on your own anyway, Mom. So be nice and help. I wondered, not for the first time, what it meant to them that I was alone. Did they see me as a person with hopes and disappointments, or just a placeholder, someone who waited for their call, who existed in the margins of their busy lives? I drove through the maze of suburban streets, past playgrounds and Halloween decorations, all the while feeling something unfamiliar settle in my chest. Not anger exactly, not even hurt, just a cold, hollow sort of understanding. By the time I reached their driveway, I'd made a decision I didn't have words for yet. I only knew one thing. Tonight, I would do what was asked. But something in me had shifted. Quietly, completely, and for good. The evening unfolded in patterns I knew by heart. Mark's house was large, modern, filled with the faint scent of lemon cleaner and last night's takeout. The entryway was cluttered with shoes, small sneakers, ballet flats, a pair of Jessica's boots tipped on their sides. I let myself in with the key they'd given me years ago, the one they never offered to take back. Anna ran to me first, arms flung wide, hair tangled from an afternoon of play. Grandma, you're here, she squealed, launching herself at my knees. Timmy appeared next, thumb in mouth, eyes watchful. He held out his favorite stuffed fox, wordless, as if to say, We'll be all right as long as you're here. Mark barely looked up from the kitchen table, where he was assembling a spreadsheet on his laptop. He wore that distracted look he'd inherited from Paul, brows furrowed, eyes darting between screens. Thanks, Mom. Pizza's in the fridge. Bedtime's 8:30 for Anna, 8 for Timmy. Oh, and Jess said to remind you, Anna needs her soccer uniform washed for tomorrow. We'll be home late. I nodded. I've got it. He stood, gave me a quick one-armed hug, his eyes already back on his phone. Thanks, you're the best. He grabbed his coat, called over his shoulder. Love you, kids. Listen to Grandma. And was gone, the door slamming with a shudder that echoed through the empty hallway. The silence that followed was familiar. Not peaceful, not heavy, just there, like a second skin. Dinner was quick: reheated pizza, apple slices, chocolate milk. Anna chattered about her spelling test. Timmy smeared tomato sauce on the table. I laughed where I was supposed to laugh, nodded where I was meant to nod. But inside, I felt detached, moving through the motions as if watching someone else perform the part. After dinner, I swept crumbs from the table, washed dishes, found a missing soccer sock under the couch, started a load of laundry. Bath time, pajamas, brushing teeth, routine so ingrained I could have done it in my sleep. Anna wanted a story, and Timmy wanted a lullaby. I sat on Anna's bed, reading from the same battered copy of Charlotte's Web we'd started months ago. My voice was steady, even as my mind wandered. I remembered reading to Mark decades ago when he was afraid of thunderstorms and believed I could keep him safe just by being there. When both children were asleep, I padded quietly through the house, checking doors, turning off lights. In the living room, I stood by the wide picture window, looking out at the dark street. The sky was cloudless, the stars distant and cold. I sat down on the edge of the couch, my hands folded in my lap. The house felt impossibly silent. No television, no music, just the faint tick of the kitchen clock and the hum of the refrigerator. I stared into the darkness outside, searching for something. Comfort, maybe, or a sign that I wasn't as invisible as I felt. I thought about the tickets to the movie, still on my kitchen counter at home. I thought about Edna, probably already home in her slippers, making tea, reading over her program. I imagined what it would be like to say no and mean it, to choose myself, just once, without apology. I realized slowly, painfully, that what hurt most wasn't the missing movie or even Mark's words. It was the certainty that if I didn't show up, if I stopped being available, the world would keep turning without me. I was the scaffolding of their lives, necessary but unseen. It was then, in the soft darkness of their living room, that I made a promise to myself. This is the last time I answer out of obligation. The last time I say yes because I am afraid to say no. The last order, unacknowledged and unpaid. I stayed up late, folding their laundry, tidying their living room. When Mark and Jessica came home near midnight, whispering thanks, brushing my arm with hurried gratitude, I smiled and nodded. I gathered my things quietly and slipped into the cold night, driving home beneath an indifferent moon. That night, for the first time in years, I did not sleep. I lay awake in my own bed, hands folded on my chest, heart beating with a slow, unfamiliar resolve. By dawn, I knew exactly what I would do. I woke before the sun. My bedroom was pale with the thin blue of morning, the air sharp against my face. For a few minutes, I simply lay there, not moving, listening to the creaks of my old house settling, the distant bark of a neighbor's dog. There was a heaviness inside me, but it wasn't sadness, more like the gravity of a decision finally made. I moved through my morning routine as if in a trance. Coffee brewed. The radio hummed a song I barely heard. I set the kitchen table for one, as always, and ate a single slice of toast, buttered and cut in triangles, the way Paul used to like. As I rinsed my plate, I felt strangely steady, more awake than I'd been in years. After breakfast, I fetched the small notepad I kept in the junk drawer. The cover was faded, the first few pages messy with grocery lists and reminders for birthdays. I drew a careful line down the middle and began writing names and numbers. My son, Jessica, their home and work phones, the old insurance agent, the dentist who still sent me postcards. My emergency list, as I used to call it, made when Paul first got sick, revised and expanded over time. My hand hesitated over Mark's name. For years, he'd been my first call, the in case of emergency contact on every form, every file, every hospital intake. Now, with a deliberate calm, I drew a single line through his name. I replaced it with Edna's. She'd know what to do. She saw me, not just the role I played. I picked up my phone, fingers trembling just once, and called the service provider. "I'd like to change my number," I said. The man on the other end sounded surprised. "Trouble at home, ma'am?" I almost laughed. "No," I replied quietly. "I just need something different." It took 5 minutes. When it was done, I turned off my phone and placed it in the drawer. No more "You are my sunshine." No more interruptions. There were other routines to break. I sat at the kitchen table with a stack of envelopes, bank statements, utility bills, slips from the grocery store, and the brightly colored advertisements my grandchildren used to draw on. Somewhere among them was the auto payment for Mark and Jessica's electric bill. I'd set it up years ago, after a late-night call from Mark when their power was nearly shut off. Back then, it felt good to be needed. Now, it felt like another invisible thread, tying me to a pattern I no longer wanted. One by one, I logged into each account: cell phone, electricity, credit card, canceling transfers, closing out auto payments, making neat handwritten notes to mark the changes. Each click felt both strange and satisfying, like removing splinters I'd grown used to living with. When it was done, I gathered the papers into a tidy stack and locked them in the file box at the back of the closet. Then, the last act, something just for me. On a whim, I searched online for local clubs and community groups. I hadn't done this in years. The senior center was a 5-minute walk, but I'd always been too busy, too on call for Mark, for the kids, for everything but myself. There it was: Golden Years Social Club, games, tea, friendship for women 60 plus, weekly meetings, board games, crafts, outings, no RSVP required. I hesitated for a breath, then dialed the number. A cheerful voice answered. "Hi, this is Linda. Are you calling about the club?" For the first time in a long while, my own voice sounded hopeful. "Yes, my name is Marcia. I'd like to join." "We'd love to have you, Marcia. Come next Thursday. Bring yourself. That's all you need." I thanked her, and after we hung up, I felt something in me lift. A weight, a curtain, an old skin. I stared at my hands. They looked the same, but they didn't feel the same. I was doing this, really doing this. For me. The rest of the day passed in gentle ritual. I washed the towels, swept the kitchen, arranged the living room just so. I took a walk, the chill air making my cheeks tingle, and watched as children in Halloween costumes paraded outside the school. I thought of Anna and Timmy and felt the familiar ache of missing them, but underneath there was a steadiness, a quiet pride. I hadn't abandoned anyone. I had simply turned toward myself. That evening, I brewed a pot of tea and sat in the living room. The window opened just enough to let the cold in. I didn't check my phone. I didn't wait for anyone's call. For the first time in decades, I felt the peaceful hush of a house truly my own. In the deepening dark, I found myself humming, softly, an old tune, not for anyone else to hear. I was still here, still Marcia, and for once, that was enough. The next week settled over me like fresh snow, soft, slow, and strangely bright. My home was quieter, but not empty. I woke without the sharp jolt of expectation, without the silent waiting for a request, a call, a new obligation to wedge between my days. At first, I found myself reaching for the phone on instinct, scanning for messages, expecting, almost hoping for that familiar ringtone. It didn't come. I'd changed my number, told only Edna and the woman from the Golden Years Club, and I'd left the old phone off in the drawer, just in case I wavered. A tether cut. The calendar on my fridge was suddenly open, squares of blank space stretching ahead, not filled with pickups and errands, but waiting for me to decide. The freedom unsettled me at first. Years of habit don't unspool in a day. but I filled the emptiness gently. I went to the Golden Years Club on Thursday, as promised. The senior center was a low-slung brick building with a sagging blue awning and the smell of cinnamon and library books inside. I almost turned away at the door, my heart racing, palms sweating, the old doubt prickling my skin. But Linda met me with a warm handshake and a plate of lemon bars. "Marcia, welcome, come join us. We're just setting up for dominoes." There were 7 other women, each with a story to tell. I learned their names slowly. June, who loved old movies. Beverly, who brought her own tea bags. Doris, who always wore something purple. They welcomed me easily, as if they'd always expected me. We played dominoes, sipped weak tea, and told stories of childhood pranks, of travel mishaps, of things lost and found. For the first time in ages, I was called by my own name, not Mom or Grandma. I belonged for no reason except that I'd shown up. Between club meetings, I took walks through the neighborhood, rediscovering familiar streets. I noticed the details I'd forgotten. A red door 3 houses down, the cat that slept in the bookstore window, the scent of fresh bread from the corner bakery. Sometimes I lingered on the porch swing, wrapped in my lavender scarf, watching dusk settle on the trees. Edna called once, just to check in. "How's the experiment?" she asked, teasing, her voice warm with approval. "It's quiet," I admitted, "but I think I'm getting used to it." "You sound different, lighter. I feel like I'm breathing again," I told her, surprised to find it true. The world didn't collapse without me. My house didn't crumble. I learned the small pleasures of idle time, finishing a puzzle, reading a book from start to end in one sitting, baking cookies just for myself and eating them warm from the tray. Then, as if on cue, the storm began. It started with calls, many at first, all from numbers I recognized. Mark's, Jessica's, their home, their cells. Dozens in rapid succession, filling the old phone with missed notifications that I refused to check. I imagined Mark's face, puzzled turning to impatient, then to worry or anger. I pictured Jessica's brisk efficiency faltering at the silence, her texts going unanswered. Next, they turned to Etna. She called me one afternoon, laughter in her voice. "They're desperate, Marcia. They want to know if you're okay, if you've run off or lost your phone." I told them the truth. "You're finally busy, with yourself." I laughed, too, a light sound, surprised at how little guilt I felt. There was a pang. Of course there was, after all those years. But underneath it was something else. The thrill of being missed, of being needed. But on my terms now, not as a constant, invisible solution. A few days later, Beverly from the club handed me a small, folded note after dominoes. "You dropped this," she winked, though I hadn't. Inside, in Edna's neat hand, was a simple line. "Proud of you. Don't answer yet." By Sunday, the calls slowed. The world, it seemed, could adjust to my absence, just as I was learning to adjust to my own presence. I spent Sunday afternoon making soup from scratch, just for me, and watched the first true snowfall dust the world in silver. I felt the urge to call Anna and Timmy to ask about soccer and storybooks. But I stopped myself. Love, I realized, didn't have to mean self-erasure. I could hold my family in my heart, even as I built new walls around my time. For years, I had been a lifeline, always extended. Now I was something else, something solid, with boundaries, with my own gravity. And as the week ended, I found I liked the shape of my days, the sound of my own laughter echoing through the house, the gentle certainty that my life for once belonged to me. By the end of the second week, the air had shifted. The town was wrapped in late autumn, gray skies, the last stubborn leaves spiraling down, and a chill that seeped under doors and through the cracks in old window frames. I felt it in my bones, the slow deepening of winter. But there was another chill, too, a tension I couldn't quite name, a sense that something was coming. That Friday, I was making tea in the kitchen when I heard footsteps crunching on the gravel outside. My new phone, its case still smooth and unfamiliar, remained silent on the counter. Through the thin curtain, I saw a familiar car in my driveway. Mark's, headlights off, engine idling for a moment before he killed it. He sat behind the wheel longer than necessary, head bowed, hands on the steering wheel. For a moment, he looked like the boy I used to watch from the kitchen window as he waited for the school bus, nervous and alone. I kept my movements quiet, neither rushing nor hiding, but my heart drummed in my chest. I set the kettle aside, straightened the stack of mail, and waited. There was no knock. The front door opened with the ease of long habit. He still had a key, and he let himself in as if nothing had changed. He called out, not loudly, but with a note of expectation that caught in my throat. "Mom?" I heard his shoes on the wood floor, the scrape of his coat against the door frame as he shrugged it off and hung it on the peg. He stepped into the kitchen and stopped when he saw me. For a moment, neither of us spoke. He looked older than I remembered, eyes rimmed red, lines deep around his mouth. He tried a smile, but it came out brittle. "Hey," he said. I nodded. "Hello, Mark." He shifted his weight, scanning the kitchen as if searching for evidence of my new life. He took in the teapot, the half-completed puzzle on the table, the stack of library books by the window. I noticed his gaze linger on the phone, silent, unresponsive. He broke the silence first. I've been trying to call. Jess has too. Anna keeps asking about you. We, we were worried." I didn't answer right away. I poured hot water into a mug, letting the steam rise between us, a barrier neither of us could cross. "I've been busy," I said quietly, meeting his eyes. "I joined a club, made some new friends. Edna and I are thinking of going to the city for a museum day next week." He frowned, taken aback, as if I'd spoken in another language. "But, Mom, you're alone, aren't you? Why are you doing this? Why?" He let the sentence hang, incomplete. I set the mug down and leaned on the table, steadying myself. For a long moment, I looked at him, the son I had fed, comforted, shielded from the world. The man who now looked at me with confusion, even hurt, as if I'd upended something sacred. "Mark," I said, my voice soft but unyielding. "You're right. I was alone, but now I'm unavailable." The words surprised even me, not harsh, not angry, just final. His eyes widened, a flash of something. Was it fear, anger, grief, passing across his face? He took a step forward, then stopped, as if he'd remembered some old rule he couldn't break. "Mom, the kids miss you. We miss you. Jess is overwhelmed. I'm working so much." His voice caught, and I heard a plea in it, a child's longing tangled with an adult's frustration. "Why are you shutting us out?" I shook my head, gentler now. "I'm not shutting you out, Mark. I just needed space. For years, I was always here, always saying yes, whether I wanted to or not. You never noticed when it cost me something. You never asked." He bristled, opened his mouth to object, then stopped. I could see him searching for the words, old habits warring with the new uncomfortable reality of my boundaries. He rubbed his temples, defeated. I just, I didn't think, I waited, letting the silence speak for itself. He looked down, at his hands, then back at me. Can we, can we talk about this? Maybe dinner this weekend, just us? No kids, no favors. Please?" The ache in my chest was real, but I stood firm. "Maybe, I'll let you know. But Mark, things are different now. I hope you understand." He nodded, but I saw the uncertainty in his eyes. He picked up his coat, hesitated, then turned back to me, almost childlike. If you change your mind, I gave him a small smile, bittersweet. I know where to find you. He left quietly, closing the door behind him with care. I listened to his footsteps retreat, the car door slam, the engine fading down the street. For a long time, I stood at the window, tea cooling in my hands. The house was silent, but this time the quiet belonged to me. No one was waiting for me to answer, to fix, to give. I was not angry, not even triumphant, just free. Later, I called Edna. She answered on the first ring. How did it go? I smiled into the phone, a real smile, the kind I hadn't felt in years. I think I'm finally learning how to say yes to myself. That night, I slept without dreaming, wrapped in the comfort of my own choices, the certainty that I would not, could not go back. Winter deepened and settled in for good. The days shortened and the world outside my window faded to soft whites and pale grays. I hung heavier curtains and placed thick rugs on the floors, finding comfort in these small acts of care for myself. The routines I built were my own now, shaped not by the needs of others, but by the quiet hum of my own wants and whims. There were moments when the old habits threatened to return, a pang when I passed the elementary school on my way to the bakery and saw children pouring out, scarves flying, parents calling their names. Once, as I browsed the aisles at the grocery store, I caught sight of a little girl with Anna's hair, Anna's stubborn chin, tugging her mother's hand. For an instant, I nearly reached for the phone I no longer checked, nearly slipped into the pattern of just in case, but the urge faded, replaced by the gentle warmth of knowing I could choose what to do with that ache. I could feel it and still be whole. Every Saturday, I went to the Golden Years Club. It became a small anchor in my week. The women knew me as Marcia, not Mark's mom, not the babysitter, not the helper, just Marcia. I learned the rules of dominoes and found I was decent at it, especially when Doris and June ganged up to distract the new girl. There were tea parties, potlucks, and on stormy days, long afternoons of puzzles and laughter. Sometimes we bundled into a van and visited a museum or went to the theater downtown, our chatter echoing up the stairs like a flock of schoolgirls. One morning, I brought in a cake I'd made for no reason at all. Linda hugged me and said, "You're a light, Marcia." The words stayed with me all day, a simple kindness that meant more than any thanks I'd received in years. Edna became a regular companion. She'd stop by for coffee or call me just to share some piece of local gossip, and we'd walk arm in arm to the market. She liked to joke that we were women of leisure now, and for the first time, I could laugh and mean it. Our friendship deepened, colored by the understanding of women who have spent years as background players and were only now stepping into the light. The calls and messages from Mark and Jessica slowed, then nearly stopped altogether. When a card came from Anna, crayon hearts, her name spelled large and looping, I wept a little, but did not reach out. I tucked the card in a drawer with other small treasures, letting love be love, not duty. Around Christmas, there was a knock at my door. It was Anna and Timmy, with Mark standing a few feet behind, holding a plate of cookies. The children were awkward at first, eyes down, but Anna handed me the plate. "Daddy said we should bring these," she murmured. Mark, for once, didn't try to fill the silence. I knelt down and thanked the children, giving them both a gentle hug. Mark met my eyes, and there was something new there, a hesitance, a searching, as if he was trying to see me, not just the role I used to play. "We miss you, Mom," he said. "We'd like to see you when you have time." I nodded, warmth and sadness mingling in my chest. "I'll let you know," I said, and meant it. They left soon after, the snow muffling their footsteps. I stood in the doorway, the plate of cookies warm in my hands, watching them until they reached the car. I felt both lighter and heavier, loss and gain all tangled together. After New Year's, the days began to lengthen. I filled the weeks with new projects, painting my kitchen cabinets a cheerful yellow, starting a biography of Eleanor Roosevelt, planting bulbs for the spring. I even took a day trip with the club to the botanical gardens, laughing at the frost-bitten noses and stories of years gone by. One evening, after another long, lively dominoes game, I lingered in the common room as the other women gathered their coats. Linda turned to me, a twinkle in her eye. "You know, Marcia, you're a regular now. You even sound happier." I smiled, realizing it was true. For the first time in years, my life felt like it belonged to me. No more waiting for the phone to ring. No more bracing for the next request. No more erasing myself to meet someone else's needs. On my way home that night, the town was quiet, the streetlights glowing softly on the snow. I paused at the corner, looking up at the vast, dark sky. The air was cold, but my steps were light. When I got home, the house greeted me with warmth. I brewed tea and settled by the window, pulling a new book into my lap. As I read, I thought about the path I'd walked, the years of saying yes, the slow realization of my own needs, the final quiet refusal. I knew I'd never go back to the woman who was always available, always waiting in the wings. I was still a mother, still a grandmother, but I was also Marcia, a woman with her own joys, her own time, her own peace. And in that gentle, ordinary night, I felt the deep, lasting comfort of knowing that for the first time in decades, I was not waiting for someone else to call. I was here, in my home, with laughter and company and the dignity of being seen, for myself. No one called to cancel on me, and I no longer canceled on myself.